I'm practically quoting her, my solution is 1,000,000,000,000 times more likely for Congress to pass than yours, unquote. That's her practically exact words in online debates with me, you see. And I said, oh, sure, where's your math? Like the banking systems aren't going to notice that you're taking interest away from them, ostensibly to justify interest as a mode of taxation, which you can't even justify is rightly imposed upon the people who absorb the infrastructures or services. You see, how is it even a just method of taxation? And Congress is going to argue indisputably for this and set it up as a solution? No. And the reason why is all she's done is compromise principle, and the whole reason she did that was so that she could look like as if she was an author of solution, when in fact all of her work proves that she doesn't have the slightest idea. She's never done the math. She's never traced anything out. She just thinks if she throws something out there which seems appealing to people on a superficial level, that's good, like this idea of just spending money into circulation, which she's finally come to after years of being proven wrong on every assertion she's ever offered up, including this one. You see, oh, you don't have to finance it with debt. You can just pay for it now by spending money into circulation. Well, baloney. Because all money has to have an obligation to pay it out of circulation, or it undermines the representative value of the whole rest of the circulation. You see? Can't be done. She's never even engaged in the math. I'm a software engineer. I've accounted for every detail, of every possible cycle that can happen in the economic models I provided the Reagan administration. You could ask me, and I could just input the values. You could say, well, how long could the economy last if we just charged a 0.5% in interest, or 0.75%, or 1% of a quarter? I could type in a number and you get an answer back a short while later. Plotting the escalation of artificial indebtedness through the whole finite lifespan of the system, lasting 50 years, 40 years, 20 years, 10 years, 3 years, depending on the rates of interest that you impose upon it. So, Ellen Hodgson Brown, I've been told the story of how all this happens, but she basically, pardon?
I didn't want to go there, Mike.
Okay. You don't want to go there. The fact of the matter is, we all need to know these things. Ellen isn't going to join us in solution because she's out for herself. Like
right.
like this guy is here. He didn't join us in a debate. Ellen isn't going to join us in an affirmation of solution because that's who she is. She doesn't have any disproof of it. And to me, that is I asked her in our debates, I said, are you willing to risk the fate of mankind on your purported solution? And she left the discussion never to return.
I see a big problem that we've gotten to the stage where we are now in human in our human endeavors and our human nature, that greed is there's lots where greed is a big factor. The rest of it is that because we have been indoctrinated into a way of fighting for everything, we've got diminishing supplies of whatever, we have to fight for everything that there is, and that includes ideas.
Yeah. But if we want to abandon the idea of intellectual property, that's a bad enough idea itself. But to beyond that, to destroy the intellectual integrity of the only idea which could have saved us by pretending equal or better authority, competing with it, and then refusing even to debate your idea, your quote, your idea, unquote, with the author that you stole from, directly or indirectly, as this guy's web presence, for instance, exists in the wake of this money as debt thing that rose up as a consequence of these people even quote my parable of perfect economy. Benjamin Franklin proved that money can't be a debt. Well, I'm sorry, I planted that in that story to test the person that I told it to if they had learned. And in the first part, between the the man who raised fowl and the man who raised feed, where they issue their promissory obligations to each other and they're paid out of circulation, they're retired because there's an obligation. I give the correct model in that part of the story. In the second part of the story, where I have government just spending money into circulation, I'm introducing a fatal flaw, and which undermines the integrity of the circulation. And I put that there to test my reader, giving them this grand explanation of Benjamin Franklin of how to fund government without even taxation, which are Mike Montagne's words issued through the mouth of Benjamin Franklin. Franklin never said these things. Those are my words. And these people in these money as debt, who are saying money can't be a debt or even an obligation, which translates to a debt, they argue against me constantly. But yet, in their own forums, they're quoting me. They're quoting Benjamin Franklin as proving this way to fund government by spending money into circulation, which comes from my story. And so then they're arguing against me because they're the person who listened to this story and never caught the fatal fault. Never caught it, you see? So they're wrong, and that's why they're not coming to this discussion to debate with us.
Well, I hope that we've got plenty of people out there that may be in positions to affect a greater change.
We the people are,
for sure, we the people.
That's the only way it's going to happen. You're just not, I've been around too long. There are countries which watch me. I see patterns in political events between countries which are obviously watching my work in response to blogs immediately, and whatnot. And if these countries wanted to do this, in other words, the existing governments, it would have happened a long time ago. And every government which hasn't done this and knows about it, and a lot do, is in the wrong against its people. And that's why it isn't people in power who are going to do this. I mean, Jack works a lot at that. It may happen, but truth of the matter is, we have, even in the last couple of days, stories of political candidates who recently ran for president of the United States, who refused a proposition of mathematically perfected economy, who have now plagiarized my mandate substantially, even claiming things like the only just sustainable economy, which they don't even achieve in a bill that's recently been introduced in the United States Congress. This man's whole office was behind a presentation of mathematically perfected economy, and he refused it in 2008. And now one of my chief plagiarists and he have gotten together to author this bill in competition of this mandate, which still does not offer solution. So what's happening instead, Karl, is every time we converse with these people, we're only arming the enemy to stand up and claim that they're accomplishing something that they don't even understand what the fundamentals are of solution are yet.
Yeah, I think a big problem as well is that any country that, certainly small country, that has ever tried to go against the central banking system has been thoroughly squashed. And I believe that's one of the big factors as why it may not be taken up.
Then again, there's never been an omnipotent effort to do so. In other words, never in history have these indefeatable arguments been presented for eradication of interest, rectification of the promissory obligation, restoration of the right of issuance of a promissory obligation to the people through a common monetary foundry, the only structure that can even represent us. Nobody strived for this before. Nobody presented these irrefutable arguments which are presented in this mandate, you see. And these are to the great embarrassment of every government existing on earth right now. You see.
Actually, what was Andrew Jackson's?
Well, Andrew Jackson's motives were largely personal. Anyone who was against him, he was defiant of. You see, and the bankers were against him, and he was against the bankers. So he knocked off the. You see, I'm the one who had this history of monetary. This monetary history online, which has been so plagiarized in some of the most popular videos, and I've taken it down. And I've taken it down because I had to allow the plagiarists to go on their merry way, because they can't. They instead, hail Andrew Jackson as a great hero. Well, there's no evidence that Jackson understood the monetary improprieties, and basically he accomplished nothing. He knocked off the second bank of the United States, the central bank, believing all of the other banks in existence to continue issuing these obfuscations of the promissory obligation. So you have the exact same effect. And no one who understands this is a cause of terminal failure and all of the ever-escalating injustices along the route to inevitable failure would fail to understand that there's no such thing as just eliminating the building or the bank at the very top. It's like taking down the capstone off the Great Pyramid, and yet every stone had the exact same function, and the rest of the stones would have had the ability to function as much as the sum, including the capstone. To remove the capstone accomplished nothing. You left the same process in effect, and so the actual fact of the matter is Jackson served one term, and at the end of that term, and even during the term, they suffered such financial calamity as practically amounted to a depression during his term, including the same thing is happening if we're going to eliminate the Federal Reserve Bank. If we don't eliminate banking altogether, which is this obfuscation of the promissory obligation, and restore the natural roles and life cycle of promissory obligation to the people through a common monetary foundry, which is to eliminate banking altogether, we don't solve the problem. So this end the Fed thing it's just a bunch of kids, and they don't even have a monetary policy. They're selling T-shirts. They're making money. They don't have a monetary policy. You see, and so it's the same thing. If we end the Fed now, we have the same thing unless we eliminate all banking and rectify the current state into an initial sustainable state, which can be sustained forever afterward. This recent competitor of U.S. Congress, is only using those terms, and I can prove from his very terms of his bill that he's not establishing a just, sustainable state. He's like Ellen Hodgson Brown, appealing to both sides in a political manner. In one case they're going to spend money into circulation. In other cases, the money's not going to be a debt. It's just flowery language that can't even be delivered upon. It's a pile of crap. And we have to recognize that as a people, because here once again we got another guy who's competing with us, who refused mathematically perfected economy just 2 years ago, and I mean the same thing was going on with Ron Paul, G. Edward Griffin. It was interest doesn't multiply debt. Now he's doing a new book, Jekyll Island Revisited. Why? Because I've had an article online about him for years, which disproves his intended proof that interest doesn't multiply debt. And guess what he's saying now? Interest multiplies debt. Well, guess where that idea came from? And why has he changed his mind? Because I've embarrassed him for so long about it, and so many people have jammed him up about it that he's finally, condescended. But now he's parading himself around as if he realized it himself, which is a further lie, and a further cause of a splintering. So I don't see these things as beautiful, Karl. I mean, I see these things as unforgivable offenses against.
Yeah, so the thing is, though, what can we as normal people actually go ahead and do? I know you want to
rise up and stand up ourselves and say, the hell with all of you. You're full of crap. You're full of crap. You are destroyers, and we're having no more of it. you know, and that's what this mandate gives everyone the power to do as a sovereign individual, you know, and you know, our competitors aren't giving that to you, and nothing can provide the people more benefit than mathematically perfected economy. But this guy, like in this Bank of England Act, for instance, is you know, he's appealing to the bankers to do this, which is stupid as stupid can be, you know.